Hello, I'm Frost and welcome to another episode of Alliance Spotlight. Tonight we're going to be looking at WE FORM VOLTA, and my guest is StarFleetCommander, who has been in VOLTA for almost 10 years now, has been the CEO for the last 6 years. Now, I'm sure many of you know WE FORM VOLTA. They have built up quite a reputation over the last decade, so let's find out more about them. Hello Starfleet, so welcome to Alliance Spotlight. I am actually super stoked you came on. I have had dealings with VOLTA in the past, so I'm fairly familiar, but I would like to hear all of the stories about VOLTA, so welcome.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I was surprised to get a message, and I thought, yeah, let's have a chat.
Yeah, especially as VOLTA has kind of been through a number of changes over the years, and I think that makes it really interesting as well. So why don't we start with that? I mean, VOLTA have been around for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, VOLTA's been around now around 10 years actually. Over 10 years. And,
oh wow!
And then for me, I'll be 10 years in the corp in a couple of months, I think. I mean, yeah, we've been around the place, and most people, I think, probably have seen us or recognize us or are scared of us or just don't like us or probably for some reason. But yeah, we've pretty much done everything as a corp. But yeah, we're probably most famous for the Thera era,
Okay, and that Thera era, I mean, we're talking sort of, when did that really start? Was that, because that was quite a way in. I mean, if you say 10 years ago, you've not been in Thera for 10 years, right?
No, yeah, we started as a small gang roaming corp, as do a lot of corps like VOLTA, and then we moved into actually wormholes prior to Thera for a brief period of time under Virgiclaps, and had some success under VOC, did some Alliance tournaments and did a lot of Armor Tech 3s and stuff. Then I think we got bored of that, and then we brought back Try again for the fourth time, and then did some nullsec stuff, just standard thing, and then that kind of died down, and then Thera got introduced into the game, and that's when we made WE FORM VOLTA, and then we sort of took Thera, and I think at the time there was a few corps roaming out of it, and I wanted to make Thera more of that sort of mid-scale, 50 tech frees or something, and start rolling and getting kills, and yeah, and that was kind of the golden time. I think it was 2015 to 2018 was when was in there for the longest time,
Yeah, it was a good 3 or 4 year stretch, wasn't it? So just for the people that aren't familiar with Thera, do you want to just try and give us a little overview of why Thera, not just a wormhole? What makes it different from a standard kind of wormhole setup?
Well, Thera, it's basically just a wormhole on steroids, to be honest. It's just got more connections, it's got more statics. The system's massive, which can be annoying if you're trying to rush to a wormhole. But it just gives a lot more flexibility. You get more connections every day. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know how many, but it's at least 5 or 6, low-sec or null-sec wormholes, each day. And there are statics, so you can roll them like you can in all wormholes. There are a couple of downsides to Thera. Eve Scout is one of them.
They do a very good job, don't they? Yeah.
They do a great job, but as PvPers and as hunters, it's kind of broadcasting our location.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of just a wormhole on steroids that has stations, and that's the key point.
That's the thing, isn't it? You've got the NPC stations, so you can't be evicted.
Exactly, yeah. And we were, some groups tried to evict us, which is silly because NPC stations, But yeah, it's just a great place to PvP, really. Yeah.
So I mean, that's where most people became familiar with VOLTA, including myself. So how did that kind of play out? Was it always that was the gameplay every day was literally just whaling and just see who can we undock on and how fast can we get stuff tackled?
Yeah, we kind of had there was various groups that were with us in Thera, and they kind of moved around. I think it was some of the turn left guys were there, and some of the no gates and the minions were in there as well, other Thera groups that we'd sort of work with. But yeah, it was basically, we'd roll wormholes and just get, we tackle raw calls, and to be honest, the premise of the whole thing is catching nullsec people off guard, and they rush to form to fight us. and in doing so make a lot of mistakes, and then we just capitalize on the mistakes. We just, as you probably might have been at the receiving end of, like, panicking to go save a raw call.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it? I mean, you guys normally had far less people, but you were normally in much better ships. You had good skill points and stuff, and then also you were prepared. Whilst everyone else is just trying to get people into fleet, realizing you're missing links and screaming for links and all this kind of stuff, trying to be as quick as possible. Where you got a raw call pilot just like bursting into tears almost, because he's seeing no way out and he's watching his panic run out, So yeah, you did certainly liven up everyone's game. I can assure you of that, especially in the nullsec regions. But talking of nullsec, you guys then moved into nullsec, right?
Yeah, I think towards the end of the Thera era, we kind of maybe became a bit too notorious, and then I think some of the bigger blocks started to stream the Thera undock and all this sort of thing, and it forced us to be a bit more creative and try and like ruse people to think we're not in the station. I think we did one where we actually just moved stations for like a couple of days to see if that worked. But yeah, what you're leading onto is the sort of the drone land sort of campaign, which we kind of just was a bit of a poke. We just sort of poked drone lands, then we ended up just moving into drone lands, and we just kind of, alongside skill self, of course, I'm not gonna like pretend it was all Volta.
And hard knocks
we
as
both and hard knocks in the north, in Cobber Edge. But we mainly worked with skill self, and we took over the drone lands. But that didn't really last long for Volta. For my corp, like we joined them, but it wasn't really my after I think we like ended up having blues and like NC Dot, and I think he called a blue, and that wasn't really Volta. Bluing up such massive groups wasn't really our thing.
Yeah, I mean, especially with your small gang kind of origins, and also the fact that you like that kind of deployment style of just going off and attacking people, whoever they may be. Yeah, as soon as you kind of get into the big nullsec blocks, then that creates issues, right?
Yeah, we had some. Don't get me wrong. I think, and this is probably the same thing for like all the Volta, the OG Volta guys and Volta proper, is the ones that have been around for ages. And that's the thing about my corp, is pretty much the reason why everyone stayed together is we've all been together for so long, and it is it's a very specific culture. I'm gonna say that.
Okay. How would you describe that culture then?
I don't know. It's a bit. Yes, that's a word. It's unique. I mean, I wouldn't say we're like super toxic, but there's a lot of characters in Volta, and you have to be kind of thick-skinned sometimes. But it's a corp, and I don't know, if it's been around for 10 years, then something's right, I guess.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you got some names that pop out with Volta. I mean, Suetonia is part of Volta. You got Ithaca Hawk, who's obviously the anchor for the Event-T in the Alliance tournament. So, there's quite a few people that are fairly well known out of Volta, right? And obviously yourself as well as an FC.
I mean, I don't really regard myself as a famous person, but there was, like, in the past, like Warguard, obviously he quit the game, but he and Super Twinkie and Darkness, like a lot of old guys. But yeah, we've got Suetonia, Ithaca Hawk, and some other people as well, but I think they're probably the most high profile people we've got. But they're I think Suetonia, he's been with us for ages now. Actually, it's quite bizarre. He's really cool, and he does the fleets, and he actually does roaming and stuff. And but back to the drone lands, we had some good stuff there, and it was good fun. But after, I feel like once the campaign's finished, it's like we've won now. I guess I don't know. What do we do? But after a while, we actually went back to Thera, and then we had around about 8 months of good rolling, I think, before I think the scarcity stuff started to come. I think, or like what was it? The Olmeca, he like changed the whaling or something. I can't remember what he did.
Yeah, I mean, there was all sorts of things. There was like the change to the raw calls where the moon mining was affected, and
Yeah.
There are lots of different things, but yeah, eventually, you saw a lot less Rorquals getting undocked and
Pretty much, yeah. And also a big thing was Surgical Strike actually like pretty much killed mid-sized alliances. I'll say it here.
Yeah.
It did. It just made it impossible for any group that is trying to do something like 50, 60 guys to actually like tank effectively anything larger. So since then we saw an opportunity. We moved to nullsec again. Had a failed deployment in Hakonnen. That didn't go well. That was when Origin joined us, and Israd. I don't know if you.
I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
And then after that, we sort of took the Fade and Declan and Pureblind somehow, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, and obviously things from there. What I found quite surprising was that you've kind of become like full-on SOG, right? Before, like you said, you were a small gang. You were very much kind of hunters. It's very much a high SP kind of scenario where you've got very talented pilots or very skilled pilots, working with the same group every day. Now you've kind of evolved into a coalition of your own, right? The Greater Trash Coalition. So, I see. I learned the name. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I like to think that we're giving back. Like now we have Rorquals mining.
Yeah.
And giving back to we took so much for the last 5 years. That we want to give back to to the hunters out there.
Okay, so question: how do you do that then? Because obviously Volta is not something that you can change. So clearly you've created other groups in order to be able to incorporate these new roles in nullsec, right?
Yeah. So we have a few allies in the region. Toilet Paper to name one, and a few others. But we also saw the need that we can't, if we're going to sort of live here and being nullsec, we're going to need to let people in that are not going to be able to get that don't have the skills that we require. So we made We Form Blob, which is basically, I wouldn't say it's a feeder corp, but I would say that if there are people in there that join there and prove themselves and are talented and have accounts and are really good at the game, then we may be moving them into Volta if they prove themselves. But We Form Blob is basically just it's basically what it is. It's just we sort of FC new guys and we bring them in, and I think anyone can join. You can just join the corp and just get involved. It's kind of like it's kind of the same as like what Horde and Karma Fleet do, but we're just running it.
Yeah, no, I understand, and that makes complete sense as well. It's like with Horde. Obviously Horde started off kind of as a feeder to kind of Pandemic Legion, but then became an alliance in its own right and a fighting power in its own right. But and the thing obviously with We Form Blob is it obviously gives you access to things like industrialists and people that aren't necessarily just purely PvP oriented, that you can provide them a home and provide them an environment where they can do stuff. But at the same time, you've got Volta as a PvP force that can help defend and, like you say, bring up We Form Blob pilots up to standard, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. And obviously, we remain I guess the biggest PvP block in the northwest, along with TP and a few others. But that's the idea, is to there's a few guys in my corp, especially before we started Blob, that really were keen on wanting to start a newbie friendly group, and they had a lot of enthusiasm for just helping out new guys, which it's not really my thing. But if someone else wants to do it and we can support it and I can support it and we can get people involved, then all the better. And we do need the people because we own a bunch of regions. So
yeah, and I'm completely with you on that as well. Because the other thing as well is if you literally only had back in the day, you had Brave and you had Karma Fleet. So it means that you just end up with two groups growing, and you end up, with just two power blocks. If we've got every major coalition has got a new bro group, whether it's Pandemic Horde, whether it's Karma Fleet, whether it's Brave Collective, which are now on their own, or yourselves with We Form Blob, it allows to spread the player base out into multiple groups, which is going to then hopefully create more interesting content.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was one of the reasons why we came to nullsec anyway, is I don't have and when I say I mean the GTC and Volta, we don't have any relationships with any of the other blocks in the game, including like Goons and Winterco.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think Winterco even like them. We just constantly like fight them.
I was going to say, because obviously you're on the border with Winterco, and during the whole kind of Imperium Pappy kind of conflict, you guys were still up north, harassing Fraternity on a regular basis, and there was a lot of tit for tat going on as well. I believe they dropped an iHub in your region, and you did the same to them just recently, so that you can stage out. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, we the thing with Frat is they're huge, obviously massive Chinese alliance, the biggest Chinese alliance in the game. It's kind of a difficult one because they're like everything is set to CNTZ, so like the fights that we have against them are either we get up really early to fight them, or if their EU presence trying to fight us. But we've had some good fights with them, to be honest. I mean, and both sides have won and lost, lots of stuff. So it's all fun. Yeah.
So talking of time zones, so obviously, we said Fraternity are, primarily sort of Chinese time zone. Although, Winterco now is kind of becoming kind of multi-time zone as a group. What about yourselves? Are you kind of still, focused in one area or stronger in one area than others, or are you kind of trying to build up all of them? What's the situation there?
I'd say definitely for Volta, it's just we are just an EU presence. And that's all where I've tried many times, I think 3 times now in the past, to like build a USTT presence. It just doesn't work. So we're just focusing on EUTZ, but Blob, that's going to be all time zones, and we want to there's other partners in the coalition that like all get involved, and so like it is, I guess, our group is like all time zones, but like Volta proper is 100% EUTZ. Yeah,
that's one of the reasons why we have coalitions, right? It's simply because some alliances are just unable to grow in certain time zones, so you just bring in another alliance that can cover it, so that you've got that coverage.
Yeah, basically, I mean, what my plan here in the Northwest isn't, I don't know, I don't really want to be like the other blocks that just become absolutely obscenely massive. That isn't the idea, and there's a reason why we have like a bunch of small alliances that are living in our space as well, because I don't want to we could quite easily just own all the space we have, which is what Conifers did before us, that lived up here, and they owned like 3 regions entirely on their own, and obviously
they overstretched themselves.
Too much space. You're gonna give yourself a headache with that.
And also you can't protect it.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just, and it's also like gonna fall on like 2 guys to like run everything, which is like not really a good way. But we're just chilling up in the Northwest. There's content to be had here. Pure Blind, there are little groups that live there. Bandlog still live there, and I think Flying Dangerous live there. They're neutral and stuff, and
Yeah, you're pretty close to Syndicate as well, and obviously Syndicate has always got some pretty good content. You normally got quite a lot of independent groups down there as well.
Yeah, there was like during the war there was some nice stuff going on in Fountain, I guess, because there was like Fed Up and a few other groups there. Obviously they're not with us anymore, as in like they don't exist. Obviously with war ending, like the political landscape in, especially not the Northwest but the rest of the game, is like has shifted a lot. Obviously with Test and like going to Outpassage and Brave going to Germinate,
So where do you see kind of Volta going in the future, and also the Greater Trash Coalition as a whole? What are the plans? Is there any particular plans, or are you just going with the flow and seeing what happens?
I think for Volta, the Volta proper, the objective is PvP, and it always has been PvP. As for Blob and the rest of Greater Trash community, I want to get Blob to a standard, and so does Francis and Kova and Galgrek, who are the ones leading that. Get to a standard where it can consistently form, a reasonably sized fleet, 100 guys in fleet in most time zones, and then that would be brilliant. And that means that I can free up Volta to, move around a bit more and be a bit more mobile, and we can still have people around to manage the solve and everything. And
obviously. So
yeah.
similar to the initiative then, so you want to be able to be in a position where you can deploy again and just know that homeland is being taken care of, and Volta can go out and deploy places or go wormholing for content, knowing that everything's safe and sound.
For us, it's like, and for Volta, like Sov, isn't really our thing, to be honest. So if we can, build another group in nullsec, that can take the Sov over, maybe in the future, hand it to them, then fine by me. Like Volta and myself, it's not really about, owning Sov and having TCUs and stuff. We only did this because we only moved here because, well, there was nice content when we got here and we just killed everybody. But also, like, to try and, the game needs more nullsec like players. I mean, I wouldn't really regard this as a player, but you know what I mean, like more nullsec.
Yeah, groups. More entities. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't. You look at the rest of the game and it's so like, just black and white. You've got pretty much the whole of the East is just one massive block, even though they say they're resetting.
Yeah, unfortunately they still have NIPs. They still have non-invasion packs, which basically means
it's not
aggressing each other.
I'm pretty sure like NC and PlanFam, they reset Winterkill or something, and then they all, like, the day they reset, they came together, 3 fleets to fight us in Venal. And it's like, aren't you meant to be like enemies or something, or like not working together anymore? I don't know. Like, it's, the game is very like one, you're either on one side or the other. So like, we need to get more people into nullsec and to sort of be on their own and not feel like they have to be part of like a giant block to survive.
Okay, well, for that I wish you the absolute best. I like seeing kind of small kind of groups doing stuff and succeeding, and obviously you guys are not a small group, but in terms of compared to the big super blocks you are, but then you have the experience behind you to be able to stand your ground, which is what a new group can't do. So hopefully you can draw upon that 10 years of experience of and those 3 or 4 years of striking fear into everybody to bring you lots of success for the future, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, well, if the massive blocks wanted to invade us, I mean, that'd be fun, I guess. I'm not. We thought they would for a while, and they still haven't done it. So that's good. But the main thing I want to say is, like, if anyone wants to join Blob, get involved. You can just check the alliance in game We Form Blob, and check We Form Blob Inc., which is the main corp, I believe, and join the channel, join Blob, get involved. It's good fun. It's not like we try and make it a bit more, I guess, personal than the other massive ones. And yes, like, if there are really talented people that join and are really active and have those characters, we do. Well, I will say this: like, we'll look to, like, potentially move them across into Volta or somewhere else, where they're better suited.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think that was a perfect way to finish things off. So thank you very much for coming on StarFleet. Is there anything else that you want to cover, or do you think we kind of nailed it?
The only other thing, as I'd say, is the Alliance tournament. That is in 2 months that we're competing in, and that should be fun. Hopefully we do all right.
Yeah. Well, you've had some pretty good success in the past, right? You've done pretty well in previous years.
Yeah, we've dabbled. I think I've played in the most tournaments now, and has the most matches ever of anybody.
Okay.
Not wins, and not just wins and losses. I think I just played in the most tournaments.
Yeah, but I think we both know that the more you play in the tournaments, that it helps so much. It really does.
Well, I thought you were about to say the worse you get, and I was like, yeah, probably. I think so. But we all know what it comes down to, really, is actually just the roll of the dice for the jamming. That's all that matters.
Well, we shall see how it plays out. But the feeders were very good. I mean, they set. I mentioned this in my video last week because at the time of filming this, it's the beginning of September, we had the feeder rounds, and we actually saw some really good fights, and we saw a lot of people getting involved and hyped about it. So hopefully this tournament is going to get lots of viewers and really kind of show off everybody's skills as well that's taking part.
Yeah, I mean, we watched them all and it was good fun. I'm really happy that a lot of people are, you know, getting behind the AT and like watching it and getting involved and showing CCP that this is like, it is good for the game.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not just, you know, 2 people or you know, they you know, I can't remember where I saw it. It was like, oh, only like 100 people like benefit from the AT being back, and it's like, well, no, like 75 teams applied or something, which is like a lot of people.
It's also very aspirational. You know, there's pilots that go, one day I want to be an AT pilot. You know, it's something to work towards.
That was me.
Yeah, you know, and especially, you know, it's something where it doesn't mean you have to be part of a big alliance. You know, you just have to, you can be a Suetonia, you know, just go out and roam every day on your own, killing things with a Kestrel, and that will give you the experience you need that's more valid than having been an ULSEC, you know, member for 10 years. You know, so it provides another route for Eve and another path for people to aspire to.
Definitely, and it's more for me. I think it's more of an end game. It's an end game. You know, like every game has an esports, which is like always been like sort of, you know, the end game of the game is to like compete, right? In like a controlled format, and the AT gives that, and I'm really happy it's back, and I guess thank CCP Swift.
Yeah, CCP Swift and
Aurora and all those, you know, and Dopamine, they all brought it back, and you know, it's brilliant.
All right, well, I'll be hopefully, you know, providing some coverage and insight into that, and I may try and have a chat with you afterwards to see how it all went from your perspective and stuff. But for this one, we're going to wrap it up. So thank you very much for coming on Starfleet and for giving some really good insight into not only just Volta, but obviously all the coalition that's growing out from it as well. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Right, take care. Bye. And there we go. So hopefully you enjoyed that interview with Starfleet Commander. It was very much in depth and gave us, I think, what was a very good picture of WE FORM VOLTA. So as always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications, mention me your Corp Discord, your Alliance Discord, and don't forget the weekly updates are on a Tuesday, keeping you up to date on all the pew-pews that happen in New Eden. That's all from me until the next one. Bye.